Pacific Ocean terminally contaminated. There's been a great concern and outcry over the air quality from the nuclear fallout, how this wind is going to blow this contaminated air all across the planet, especially in the U.S. now. But the real thing that we should be worried about isn't the air and the air currents as much as something even more serious. And that is that most of this contamination is going to fall into the ocean, and the contamination is huge. These pictures show that the contaminated particles collect in the clouds and in the rain and go into the ocean. But that contamination that we're talking about here is only a small part of the total contamination. And this next picture shows the energy that came from the tsunami and how it flowed out into the ocean. You can look at how the pattern it went is different from the air. And this is even more so true for the ocean, because in this picture you can see the explosion that sent hundreds of thousands of contaminated fuel rods from the power plant into the ocean. All of this contamination is going into the ocean, and the contamination is huge. This picture is the roof of the building in Japan. You can see that this in the circle is a crane that holds that moves these rods. So if that crane is exposed, that means that all those rods are exposed, and all this contamination is going to end up in the air, but even more so, a huge quantity of it is going to go right into the ocean. And now what we need to be concerned about is what the air currents are going to be, or water currents, I'm sorry, where these water currents flow, because where they flow, they're going to carry this huge contamination into the water, into the oceans, and we're going to start seeing probably huge numbers of not only dead fish, but sick fish and contaminated. It's just a huge contamination. Remember what Revelation chapter 8, verse 8 and 9 said? And the second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was hurled into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the creatures that are in the sea which have souls died, and a third of the boats were wrecked. So in the Gulf we saw this happened. No one else forecasted this event. It just occurred. It's totally came as a big surprise to everybody. We saw the fish die. We saw even the boats were damaged, and boats started leaking. This Corexit or oil, or this oil-eating bacteria began eating metal, and even the Titanic now is starting to dissolve and get eaten away. So this was forecasted, and then now look what else happens in Revelation chapter 8, verses 10 and 11. And the third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star, burning as a lamp, fell from heaven, and it fell upon a third of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and a third of the waters turned into wormwood, and many of the men died from the waters, because these had been made bitter. So this is what we're waiting for to happen, and it seems to be happening right now, in my opinion, is that this water is being contaminated, and it's made bitter, and people are going to be dying from this water. So we need to watch this very closely, and I'm warning everybody to take this to heart, that water, this ocean water, is becoming contaminated. Fish are going to die, and we can't eat anything from this water. And I don't even know if we can go in this water to swim now. And I don't know what this long-term effect is going to be. But if you look at these currents, how they flow, this is going to it's going to flow and swirl all around Australia, New Zealand, South America, and of course Central America, and the United States, all the way up to Alaska. And these are fantastic areas for fishing. So a huge food supply is going to be contaminated, and these poor animals are all going to be suffering enormously, and of course the humans too are going to suffer a lot from this event. Now let's look what Revelation chapter 8 says next in verse 12, and just verse 12. And the fourth angel blew his trumpet, and a third of the sun was smitten, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, in order that a third of them might be darkened, and the day might not have illumination for a third of it, and the night likewise. So this is what we'll be looking for next, and this should be happening very soon. And of course, it's curious that we're having a lot of so-called comets and asteroids coming very close to the Earth. This is a very curious, interesting parallel, and even the gravitational pull of these objects has been already noted by coinciding events on the planet. So I think we'd be getting prepared for these things, and of course a lot of people have been recommending buying food and water and kind of restricting your travel. And these are all good ideas, I think. But this is just a very interesting series of events. But I surely think that this is the next event to occur, is that we're going to see the sun darkened.